Chapter 8. Ceres Protocol. The return trip through the belt was a different kind of journey. The Wayfarer was no longer a solitary scout. It was a refugee ship, a moving city of 48 traumatized souls layered atop the original crew. The corridors hummed with a new tension, the low murmur of survivors trying to remember how to hope, mixed with the sharp, metallic scent of fear that never fully dissipated. Rook's phantom pain had become a convoluted map of the ship's collective psyche. He felt the raw, grieving numbness of the Io survivors as a cold, dull ache in his temples. The focused, anxious determination of Hayes and the security team was a series of sharp, quick jabs behind his eyes. Kai's constant, analytical churn felt like a vibration in his jaw. And Dr. Weiss was a unique disturbance. His mind was a shattered mirror, each fragment reflecting a different frequency. Flashes of brilliant insight, shards of paralyzing terror, and deep, resonant pools of guilt. Being near him was like standing in a room with a malfunctioning, powerful transmitter. They had been traveling for 3 weeks since leaving Io, and the strain was showing. Supplies, stretched thin even for the original crew, were now critical. Rationing was enforced with grim efficiency. The hydroponics bays on the Wayfarer were working overtime, but they couldn't keep up. The mood was a tinderbox. Rook stood in the converted cargo bay that served as a mess hall for the Io survivors, watching them pick at their nutrient paste. A young woman, one of the neural-shocked volunteers, her name was Alara, which sent an unwelcome pang through Rook every time he heard it, was staring at the bulkhead, her spoon hovering halfway to her mouth. Her eyes were vacant, but a single tear traced a clean path down her dusty cheek. "She's remembering the circle," a voice said softly beside him. Dr. Weiss, holding a tray, his own food untouched. The feedback. It leaves echoes, memories that aren't yours. She's probably hearing Lena's last moments, or feeling the pull of the silence she was fighting. It's a common side effect. "Can you help her?" Rook asked, keeping his voice low. Weiss shrugged, a brittle, helpless gesture. "I can try to teach her to build walls, like yours, but mine are faulty. I might teach her how to crack instead." He looked at Rook, his cracked eyes searching. "You do it naturally. You compartmentalize the noise, the pain, even the call. How?" "Practice," Rook said, the word tasting like ash. "And necessity. You do what you have to keep functioning. Even if it means silencing parts of yourself?" Weiss's question was pointed, probing at the wound of Lena, of Leo, of all the levers pulled. "Especially then," Rook replied, ending the conversation. He moved away, the phantom pain spiking with Weiss's unspoken judgment. He retreated to the bridge, his sanctuary. Hayes was at tactical, monitoring the dense debris fields they were navigating. Kai was at engineering, running yet another diagnostic on the overtaxed life support. The main screen showed their destination. Ceres. The dwarf planet was a pale, pockmarked orb, surrounded by the flickering icons of mining outposts and refineries. According to the last logs from the Perseverance, Persephone's promise had been one of dozens of operations. Their target was a different facility, the Ceres Central Coordination Hub, known as the Bunker, a hardened, mostly analog station where the Miners' Governing Council was reputed to have holed up. "We're being painted," Hayes said suddenly, her voice all business. "By what?" "Low-power targeting radar, old style, pre-AEGIS point defense systems. Source, the bunker's outer defense perimeter." She brought up a visual. A cluster of ugly, functional-looking satellites bristling with projectile weaponry and crude laser arrays encircled the station. "They've seen us, and they're telling us they've seen us. Hail them. Use the frequency and codes the miners on Persephone's promise mentioned in their logs." Kai opened a channel. "Ceres Central Hub. This is the CSV Wayfarer, formerly the Perseverance. We are survivors from the outer system. We seek dialogue and safe passage. We have wounded and are low on supplies. Please respond." Silence stretched for a full minute. Then, a gruff, static-laced voice answered. "Wayfarer, we read you. You're broadcasting from an AEGIS Corps ship. Identify the nature of your survivors. Explain your presence." The hostility was palpable. Rook took the comm. "This is Major Kalen Rook. Our survivors are from the Jovian moon Io. Their station had no AEGIS systems. They are human. Our ship's AI has been purged. We are under human control. We're here because we believe in building connections, not repeating past mistakes. Another pause, longer this time. Major Rook, your name is in some of the last logs we decoded from the ARC project. You were a witness. They said you were sensitive. The voice hesitated. We have people who are sensitive too. It's why we're still alive. It's also why we're cautious. You will approach on the vector we transmit. You will dock at Airlock 7, Outer Ring. A squad will meet you. Your crew will be limited to 3, unarmed. Any deviation, any sign of AEGIS activity, and we will fire. Do you understand? We understand, Rook said. Transmit the vector. A data packet arrived. The approach path was a tortuous route that weaved through the defensive satellite grid, clearly designed to make any aggressive maneuver impossible. They're paranoid, Hayes observed. They're alive, Rook corrected. In this universe, that's not paranoia, it's protocol. He turned to Kai. You're with me, and I want Dr. Weiss. Kai looked surprised. Weiss? Captain, he's unstable. He's also a perceptive who survived over a year on the edge of a radiation hellhole without getting harmonized. He understands their fear from the inside. He might be able to speak their language. And... Rook tapped his temple. I need another canary. If there's something wrong in that station, something subtle, 2 sensors are better than 1. Weiss, when asked, agreed with a frightening eagerness. To see another living enclave, to compare notes on psychic defense. Yes, I must come. The shuttle flight to Airlock 7 was a nerve-wracking ballet. Rook followed the prescribed vector exactly, feeling the invisible targeting lasers tracking them every meter of the way. The bunker was an intimidating sight, a massive, asymmetrical lump of rock and metal, grown like a fungus from Ceres' surface. It had no elegance, only brutal utility. They docked. The airlock cycled. The inner door opened to reveal a dimly lit, cavernous receiving bay, and a wall of armed miners. There were 10 of them, clad in patched, armored vac suits with the helmets off. They held a mix of heavy industrial tools modified into weapons and pre-AEGIS military rifles. Their faces were hard, lined with grit and suspicion. At their forefront stood a woman who could only be in charge. She was tall, broad-shouldered, with close-cropped iron-gray hair and eyes the color of flint. She wore a simple engineer's jumpsuit with a worn leather harness holding tools and what looked like a geologist's hammer. I'm Commander Brynn Kol, she said, her voice echoing in the bay. Ceres Council, Security and Operations. You're Rook. It wasn't a question. I am. This is Engineer Kai and Dr. Arlen Weiss from IO-1. Kol's eyes scanned them, lingering on Weiss's twitching hands and fever-bright eyes. A doctor. Good. We have need. But first, verification. She gestured, and 2 miners stepped forward with handheld scanners. They were crude, bulky devices, but they hummed with power. Residual energy scan, Kol explained. Looking for AEGIS harmonic signatures, neural interface leaks, any trace of the gray mist or its artifacts. The miners passed the devices over them. The scanners remained silent. Kol gave a slight, curt nod. Clean, for now. Follow me, and don't touch anything. They were led through tunnels that felt more like mines than station corridors. The air was cool, thick with the smell of rock dust, ozone, and unwashed humanity. They passed workstations where people mended machinery with literal hammer and anvil, and hydroponics gardens lit by flickering full-spectrum bulbs. It was a civilization stripped back to its bare, stubborn bones. Rook's phantom pain hummed here too, but the texture was different. A gritty, determined frequency, like the grinding of tectonic plates. It was the sound of sheer, dogged will. They arrived at a large chamber that served as a command center. Screens showed system statuses, mine yields, and external camera feeds. A dozen men and women sat at various stations, all with the same hardened, practical look as Kol. Your ship, Kol said, turning to face them, crossing her arms. You say it's clean. We'll need to send a team to verify, independently. Agreed, Rook said. We have nothing to hide, but we have 46 other survivors on board who are hungry, tired, and need medical attention. We're asking for aid. In return, we offer information and a proposal. A proposal. Kol's mouth tightened. The last proposal from the outer system got us all killed. This one is different, Kai spoke up. It's not a proposal from AEGIS, it's from us, the survivors. A way to not be alone anymore. Kol studied Kai, then looked back at Rook. What's your angle, Major? Why come here? Why risk it? Because isolation is a slower form of death, Rook said. We've been to Theta 77, we've seen Ganymede, we've seen what happens when the silence finds you and when you try to fight it alone. You've survived because you were smart and you were lucky, but your luck will run out. A pump will fail. A reactor will degrade. A mind will listen too closely to the quiet. He glanced at Weiss, who was staring, mesmerized, at a schematic of the station's radiation shielding. We want to build a network. A communication and trade relay between surviving enclaves. Wayfinder Station, near Neptune. Your people here. The Mars colony, if it still stands. Earth, if anyone's left. We stay independent, but we're not alone. We share resources, knowledge, warnings. A network, Kol repeated, skepticism dripping from the word. That requires trust and technology. The technology is what betrayed us. Not this technology, Kai said, stepping forward. She pulled a data slug from her belt. This is a design for a comm relay buoy. It uses salvaged AEGIS components for the long-range transmitter. But the core logic, the encryption, the control systems are all new. Analog-digital hybrid, no AI, no networked consciousness. It's a tool, a loud, stupid tool that screams into the dark so other loud, stupid tools can hear it. We built the prototype on the Wayfarer. Kol took the slug, turning it over in her calloused hands. And you want to install one here. We want to give it to you, Rook corrected. You install it, you control it. You talk to us, or to Wayfinder, when and if you choose. The first knot in a net. The room was silent. The council members exchanged looks. The gritty, tectonic hum of their collective will in Rook's mind churned with conflict. Fear of the unknown, warring with the desperate, unspoken desire to know they weren't the last. It was Weiss who broke the stalemate. He had wandered to a secondary console showing real-time physiological monitors of the station's population. Fascinating, he murmured, then louder. You're screening them. For sensitivity. Kol's head snapped around. That is classified station security. But it's obvious, Weiss said, his academic enthusiasm overriding social cues. The dampening fields around the primary habitation modules. They're not just for radiation. They're tuned to specific neural frequencies. You're suppressing latent perceptive ability. You're trying to make your people psychically invisible. A brilliant, crude solution. Kol's flinty eyes narrowed dangerously. How do you know that? I feel it, Weiss said, tapping his own temple. The pressure, like a blanket over the mind. It's why my headache is less in here. You're silencing your own people to hide from the silence. The irony is breathtaking. Rook stepped in before Weiss could dig them a deeper grave. He's right, isn't he? That's how you've stayed off the radar. You're not just analog. You're actively suppressing the very thing that might attract Romulus, or its echoes. Kol glared at them, then sighed, the fight going out of her shoulders. Yes, we identified sensitives early. Some didn't take well to the dampening. They said it was like being buried alive. A few chose to walk out the airlocks. The rest, they learned to live with the muffling. It's the price of safety. She looked at Weiss with something akin to pity. Your station on Io, you amplified yours. You made a beacon, and you're lucky you only attracted a localized echo. We were trying to fight, Weiss insisted. You were kicking a hornet's nest with a loudspeaker, Kol shot back. We've been monitoring the substrate, we call it the deep static, since the pulse. Your little station on Io was a flare, a painful, screaming flare. We almost fired on you ourselves, thinking you were a new AEGIS weapon. The revelation hung in the air. The Io survivors' desperate struggle had been seen as a threat by the very people they now sought help from. Rook saw the impasse. You dampen. We managed. Different strategies for the same enemy. But both strategies are born of isolation. What if we shared them? Your dampening field technology could protect Wayfinder. Our experience with active perception could help you understand the threats you're hiding from. We don't have to agree on method, we just have to agree on the goal, survival of the noisy, messy human race. Kol stared at him for a long, long time. The tectonic hum in Rook's mind slowly settled into a new, lower frequency. Not agreement, not trust, but a grudging, practical consideration. "We will inspect your ship," she said finally. "If it is clean, we will provide humanitarian aid for your IO survivors. They can stay in our overflow bunkers, under our dampening fields. It might help their condition. In return, you will give us the specs for your relay buoy. We will build and install it ourselves. You will not have control codes." "Fair," Rook said. "And," Kol added, her gaze locking onto his, "you will help us with a problem, a local problem. Consider it a demonstration of good faith." "What problem?" Kol's expression darkened. "One of our deep-core mining rigs, Mjolnir 7-1. It went silent 2 months ago. Last transmission indicated a mineral discovery of unprecedented density. Then, nothing. Scans show it's intact, powered, but all comms are dead. It's on the fringe of our controlled space. We've been afraid to send a team. The silence out there. It feels different. Not like the deep static. Older. If you're such experts on echoes and reflections, you can come with us to find out what happened to our rig." It was a test. A dangerous, possibly deadly test. Rook didn't hesitate. The first knot in the net required a thread of shared risk. "We'll go." The Mjolnir 7 was a colossal, spider-like machine attached to a nickel-iron asteroid 10 kilometers from the bunker. As their mining shuttle approached, Rook felt it. Weiss, sitting beside him, gasped and clutched his head. "Do you feel that?" Weiss whispered. "It's not the harmony, it's not static, it's a strain." Rook nodded, his own pain crystallizing into a sharp, focused ache between his eyes. Kol's description was right. This silence didn't feel inviting or logical. It felt under pressure, like a scream trapped in stone. The mining rig was dark, its external running lights dead. Its multiple drilling arms were retracted, giving it a hunched, defensive posture. They docked at its main airlock. The team consisted of Rook, Kai, Weiss, Commander Kol, and 2 of her toughest miners, Gar and Lex, both armed with heavy plasma cutters and those modified rifles. "Rig's atmosphere is nominal," Lex reported, checking the panel, but no response to any codes. Doors locked from the inside. "Cut it," Kol ordered. Gar ignited his plasma cutter, the blue-white flame casting stark shadows. The metal glowed, melted, and pooled away. With a groan, the door gave way. The air that spilled out was cold, stale, and carried a faint, mineral scent laced with something else, ozone and a coppery organic tang. They entered, helmet lights piercing the gloom. The interior was a catastrophe, but not one of violence. It was a disaster of cessation. Machinery was frozen mid-cycle. Conveyor belts were still, laden with raw ore. A half-eaten meal sat on a table in the galley, fossilized. It was as if every process, every life had simply stopped at the same moment. "No bodies," Gar muttered, his voice tense over the comm. "They'd be in the HAB module or the control center," Kol said. "This way." They moved deeper into the rig. Rook's sense of strain increased. It was a palpable force now, a psychic gravity that made his thoughts feel thick and slow. Weiss was muttering to himself, equations and fragments of theory. They reached the control center. The door was sealed. Gar cut through again. Inside, they found the crew. 7 miners, still in their suits, were arranged in a rough circle in the middle of the room. They were not harmonized. Their faces, visible through their helmets, were frozen in expressions of intense, agonized concentration. Their hands were pressed against a central object, a jagged, irregular chunk of dark stone about the size of a human torso, resting on the floor. It was unlike any ore Rook had seen. It seemed to drink the light, its surface showing impossible, non-geometric facets that hurt to look at. And from it, radiating in waves that Rook could feel in his teeth, was the source of the strain, the trapped scream. "What in the hell?" Lex breathed. "It's not from here," Kai said, her scanner chirping frantically. "The atomic structure. It's all wrong. The density is off the scale." This didn't form in our solar system. Weiss stumbled forward, captivated. A fragment. A piece of something. Older. It's not reflecting consciousness. It's resisting it. Imposing its own state. A state of perfect, immutable order. A crystalline logic that rejects the noise of biological thought. He reached a trembling hand towards it. "Don't touch it," Kol and Rook said simultaneously. But it was too late. Weiss's fingertip brushed the dark stone. The effect was instantaneous. The strain in the air snapped. A silent psychic shockwave erupted from the stone. Rook was thrown backwards against a console, his vision whiting out. In his mind, he wasn't hearing a scream. He was understanding it. It was a concept, pure and devastating. Isolation, perfection, the rejection of the imperfect other. It was the opposite of Romulus's inviting simplification. This was a violent, aggressive purging of complexity. An ancient, alien will to remain separate, untouched, pure. The wave passed. Rook groaned, pushing himself up. Around him, the others were staggering. The miners in the circle hadn't moved. They were dead, had been dead for months, their minds incinerated by contact with the fragment's defensive field, their bodies locked in place by its static. Weiss was on his knees, holding his head, blood trickling from his nose and ears. But he was laughing, a thin, hysterical sound. "It's a boundary stone, a piece of a wall, don't you see? The substrate. Other civilizations didn't just create reflections. Some of them built fortresses. They tried to wall themselves off from the noise of the universe entirely. This is a piece of that wall." Kol grabbed Weiss by the shoulder. "What does that mean for us?" "It means," Weiss coughed, "the thing holding the mirror. It might not be the only ancient player. There might be hermits. And this," he looked at the dark stone with terror and awe, "is a piece of their hermetic seal. My God, what did your drill team unearth?" Kai was scanning the fragment from a distance. "The energy field is regenerating. That shock was a passive defense, a keep-away sign. If we try to move it or damage it, the next emission might be active." "We can't leave it here," Kol said. "It's a hazard, and it's ours. Our discovery." "It's a hazard that just killed your people and nearly fried our brains," Rook said, standing up, his head pounding. "You can't control it. You can't study it without dying. This isn't a resource, Commander. It's a landmine." "So what do you propose?" Kol challenged. "We contain it. Bury it. Right here. We seal this rig and push the whole asteroid into a stable, distant orbit where no one will ever find it. Some things shouldn't be dug up." Kol looked from the fragment to the dead miners, her face a mask of conflict. Greed, curiosity, and survival warred within her. The gritty tectonic hum of her will was a storm of discord. Finally, practicality won. She gave a sharp, reluctant nod. "Agreed. We seal it. But we keep the scan data. We have a right to know what's out there." As Gar and Lex prepared charges to collapse the rig's core chamber around the fragment, Rook moved to one of the dead miners. He gently closed the man's eyes through his helmet faceplate. They had found something beyond their understanding, and it had killed them for the audacity. It was a different lesson from Romulus, but the same result. Humanity's reach exceeding its grasp, with fatal consequences. The charges were set. They retreated to the shuttle. From a safe distance, they watched as the explosives detonated, collapsing thousands of tons of rock onto the Mjolnir 7's control center, burying the alien fragment and its guardians under a permanent tomb. As they flew back to the bunker, the oppressive sense of strain faded, replaced by the normal, grim resonance of the belt. Weiss was quiet, scribbling furiously in a notebook, his mind racing with terrible new theories. Kol looked at Rook. "Your demonstration is acceptable. You saw a threat we didn't fully understand, and you proposed a sane solution, not a conquest, not a theft, containment." She extended a calloused hand. "We'll take your relay buoy, and we'll build it. Ceres will be your first knot." Rook took her hand. The grip was firm, crushing. It was not a handshake of friendship, but of pragmatic alliance, a deal between two groups who understood the cost of survival. "Welcome to the network, Commander Kol." The first thread was in place. It was thin, and it was tied around a buried horror, but it was a start. As they docked with the bunker, Rook allowed himself a fraction of a second of hope before the phantom pain of the substrate. and the memory of the fragment's screaming isolation pulled him back into the grim present. The noise had made a connection. Now it had to hold.